AgilePM Foundation Lesson 12, Configuring the Process.
Okay, now, the whole thing here is the process, and the boxes you see there are the phases inside our process. And as you see, we have different arrows here and we can arrange them in different ways. Let's see a few of them. For example, we can have a pre-project followed by a feasibility and a foundations, and then we can have two different development time boxes when we use the evolutionary development. And then deploy once, release, have two other cycles, and then deploy again and go to the post-project. Those cycles are called development time box in DSDM. We call them iterations in XP, and they are called sprints in Scrum. In DSDM, we call them development time boxes, and in certain cases, we just call them time boxes. The time box is a generic concept we use for different things. That's when we have a maximum duration and we don't extend it. And you already know that the whole project is time boxed in DSDM. We have many different kinds of time box, but the development time box is our main time box concept. And when we just say time box, it means the development time box. So in each development time box, we create one increment of the product. The official name for that is the solution increment. It's a new version of our software. But that's a version that we don't necessarily release. The release happens in the deployment when we put it into the live use. And each set of one or more development time boxes and one deployment is called one increment. Each increment in DSDM is a set of development activities that reach a release at the end. That's how we define it. That's different from Scrum, for example. Scrum calls the solution increment is called increment in Scrum. In case you're familiar with Scrum and other Agile systems, just forget all of that, okay? We have a completely different set of phrases here. It uses a different terminology. So, it's one way of running one project. Two cycles, one release, two other cycles, another release. We can have only one release at the end. 4 cycles, one after the other, and only one release. Or the same project can be run like that. One cycle, one release, one cycle, one release, and so on. It's up to you. It depends on your project. You should see which one fits your project best. And even the number of cycles do not have to be the same. Obviously, there can be 2 cycles, 1 release, 2 cycles, 1 release, or if you want, it can be 3 cycles, 1 release, 1 cycle, 1 release, or 1 in the beginning and then 3. It's okay. Well, in most cases, the one on the left is more realistic because in the beginning, it takes more time until we can have the must. Do you remember that? MUST is the acronym for the minimum usable subset. And you cannot release it unless you have the must. The set of all must-have items. And that's why the picture on the left, the life cycle you see on the left is more practical than one on the right. But that's also possible. Nowadays, everyone is talking about scaling Agile, and they practically mean scaling Scrum because Scrum was created for small teams, one small team from the beginning. Well, many people won't agree with me on this, but that's the fact. And many companies want to use more than one team for a certain project, and when they want to use a Scrum, it's not really clear how they can use it. So they have a problem of scaling. And therefore, we have multiple solutions for that. We have the newly released Nexus framework, one way of scaling a Scrum. The old-fashioned thing that doesn't really have a name, but most people call it Scrum of Scrums. There's Less, another way of scaling. There's Safe, which scales a Scrum by removing agility, very interesting way. But the point is that we don't have that problem in DSDM because it was scaled from the beginning. It supports multiple teams, and we have everything you need for environments that use multiple teams. So instead of something like this, we can have something like this. Multiple teams working, having different cycles, and one release. Release is one for all of them. We don't have separate releases for separate teams because it's about the product, it's not about the teams. And again, a few more cycles and one release for multiple teams. So, we talked about the process, a really quick overview of the process, and in the next lesson, I will tell you about the people, the roles and responsibilities in DSDM.